So today we're going to be talking about the next map that is upcoming in Premiere, which is Bind, and I'm going to tell you how we need to be thinking about this map and playing this map and showing you some different setups and whatnot as well to help you win these games. And so let's dive straight into it. And we'll start, as we always do, with the team comp here, which is going to be BRIM, Viper, RAZE, Sage, and SKYE. That's the team comp we're going to be taking a look at. And this is a great comp for this map. It's kind of become a comp that quite a few pro teams since Bind has come back have been playing, so it's pretty meta. And I also think, you know, quite a few of these agents maybe aren't the most complex agents in the world as well. So hopefully it's simple enough and, you know, you can use this comp and get a lot of value out of it as well. In terms of alternatives for some agent, I would say that we're going to stick first with the ones that you need to play, in my opinion, which is Viper, RAZE, and SKYE. Viper is just, I mean, Viper is really a must in this map, and for a lot of the setups and a lot of what you're going to do, Viper is crucial. RAZE as well, I mean, you could play Jet if you really wanted to, but RAZE obviously is pretty good on this map. Don't know if you know that, I'm sure you all do. Yep, RAZE is pretty good. And SKYE as well, again, you could maybe find some replacements for SKYE, but SKYE as well is just pretty good on this map, and you won't really see any pro teams running without a SKYE, and there's a good reason for that. She's pretty good. For the ones that you can run alternatives, I've got BRIM there, and you could run Harbor instead. In fact, I would say if you are very confident on your Harbor on this map, I would say actually go for it, because I think Harbor might even be a little bit better than BRIM overall on this map. But yeah, I think if you're very confident in your Harbor, go for it. But if not, BRIM is a fine choice. And then if you're really not confident on BRIM or Harbor, you could also go Astra or Omen. Both are fine. They're not as good in my opinion, but they're both perfectly reasonable choices, and you can still definitely make it work. Now for Sage, I've put a question mark there underneath Sage, and the reason is because really, if you didn't want to play Sage, like you're really against playing Sage and you really want to play something else, I'm not really going to stop you, because to be honest, you can run a lot of different things in this fifth slot and still have a lot of success. And so if you're really confident on basically any of the other initiators or Cypher or Killjoy or, you know, maybe even Jet, and you run double duelist, like, go for it. Like, if that's what you're really going to feel confident with, then that's probably going to be better, because honestly, this fifth slot is kind of up in the air, even for the pros as well. And so this time we're going to start with the defensive side again, and well, to do so, first we're going to need to explain something about this map, which is this. The defenders on site to attackers' chances, you know, chart here. And this is true for all maps, pretty much, right? Where more defenders on site means that, you know, attackers' chances, you know, go down. If there's one defender on site, it's easy, but if there's 5, it's almost impossible to take that site. But this is particularly crucial for Bind, because of course, Bind doesn't have a mid, okay? Bind doesn't have a mid, and so that means that, you know, there's going to be defenders on site as the attackers as they come to the site, and they're not going to be in mid or anywhere else. They will be on the site. And that means that, you know, we've got some, it kind of matters more, I think, here for Bind. And we'll talk about this a bit when we go to the map as well. But most of the time, we're going to be looking at this, right? We start with 5 defenders, so there's often going to be 2 on one site and 3 on the other, right? And so if the attackers come into the one with 3, I'd say that that's probably a bit defenders favored. But if they come into the one with 2, I would say that that's probably attackers favored. And this is going to be crucial for understanding this map. Because, as I said, we will often start in like a 3-2, or this could be flipped the other way around, but this is how it's commonly going to be. But the thing is, and this is probably happening a lot, you know, particularly the lower divisions, but even probably pretty high as well, is you cannot over-rotate on this map. Because if a team knows what you are doing and you are over-rotating on this map, you will get punished hard for it. Because, of course, even if, you know, 5 people come running down short on you, you know, and you will flood across here, they can just take the teleporter, right? And they're going to beat you back here. And so if everyone rotates and then there's only one guy here, and then they take the teleporter and they come at this guy, that's a free site. And retaking on this map, particularly this B site, is very, very tricky. I mean, even the A site, I would say, is pretty tricky as well if you don't own certain areas of the map. So you cannot over-rotate in this map, right? And so you have to be very disciplined in not over-rotating. If there are 3 people on one site and they are coming for an exec, you kind of have to trust your teammates here. You're going to have to put some faith in them that they're going to be able to deal with it as a 3, right? If it's 2, yes, we can send someone over. We can try and bolster that back up. But if there's 3 people there, you know, you've got to have a bit of trust in your teammates, and you've got to have a bit of faith in their utility and their aim that they're going to be able to stop this well enough to where you are going to have a chance, you know, by the time that you actually get there. And so let's start off with our very first setup here for the defensive side, and this is what it's going to look like, okay? We're going to start off with a B weak side, let's say, with only the 2 players, which is going to be Sage and Skye, and we're going to start off with an A stronger side with the Viper, the Brim, and the RAZE. So let's start off with Viper then, and what we're going to do is we're going to come into this corner here in lamps, and we're going to get our Viper wall, and we are going to send it across the map just here. So we're going to aim to hit across hooker and garden just there. We're going to make sure we're not aiming at the ground because we want it to go across the map just there. And then when we do that, we're going to get this Viper wall that goes across both hooker just there and across garden just there, and that will be our Viper wall. And obviously if our teammates need the support, then we can send that Viper wall to them. Now for our Viper orb, it always makes me laugh when people do these kind of complex lineups for it, because you can literally just come and stand by this box, just look up a bit and right click, and this orb will land on that box for you. So don't worry too much about learning some complex lineup. You know, you can do this orb wherever you feel like, you know, just aim up a bit and it'll bounce off the barrier, and you're pretty much set no matter which way you do that with just a right click there. So that is going to be your Viper setup for this. Now for Skye here, one very common thing you're going to do is just send flashes out here, right? So like so, and just flash, take a look at the map to just check where it is, and it's just going to land out into kind of this area here, and obviously in here, this is going to tell you, you know, are people in this kind of area and coming towards you. Now obviously any Skye will probably know that as people are coming up here, you can, you know, go for the little quick flashes around the corner and swing and whatnot. That's going to be fairly common. But also don't forget, you can send this through the teleporter as well if you want to, right? So you can send a bird across there, across in towards this area if you want. Same for the dog as well. You could, you know, take a quick look down there and then come with the dog across here and you know, take a look out towards shower if you want as well. So this is going to be a common position for you to play as Skye, and basically you're going to do exactly what I just said, right? You're going to be flashing, you know, down there a lot. You're going to be flashing maybe for your teammates through the teleporter. You know, you're going to be potentially setting up a little double stack here and, you know, going for a quick flash around the corner and getting a kill. And that's going to be, you know, a large part of your game on this defensive side. For Sage here and hooker, very, very simple stuff. If you feel the pressure, if you feel like they're coming towards you, just put up a wall like this, absolutely fine. You can then come and actually jump on this wall as well. I mean, you don't even have to be up there to start off with. You can jump up there really at any point if you want to, and, you know, defend it, you know, from this kind of angle, which is quite nice. I mean, again, if they start breaking the wall and actually coming towards you, obviously, again, Sage slows in here are going to be very, very effective as well at stopping them. So really, you should be pretty confident as a Sage to hold this down and be able to hold your own if they do start coming towards you. And then for the RAZE and the Brim, you're over towards A here. You could do a lot of different things here. You could double stack and actually try and fight this if you want. You could play a bit more passively as well. For the Brim, you are often going to be the one who is rotating, okay? And the reason you're going to be rotating is because you want to be able to get in range. Like, you know, say we've got the 3 players over here. You want to be able to help whoever's defending here with smokes, right? Putting smokes down, say they need them here or whatever, right? So you often will be the one rotating. And I will say as well, use your stim beacon, right? Use your stim beacon to rotate. You're probably not going to get too much use of it on the defensive side. And as I said, rotations are very, very important in this map. So do not be afraid to use your stim beacon here, you know, to get across there a bit quicker if you feel like it's necessary. Now let's come to the second defensive setup, which I think is one of my favorites here. And let's start with our Viper again, because as Viper, we're going to be starting in towards hooker, put a Viper orb in hooker, and we're going to do the wall that goes across through the teleporter to the other side of the map. Now, to do this wall, what you want to do is you want to come and tuck yourself into this corner of hooker just here by this little rug. And what you want to do, get your wall out and crouch. And what you are going to aim for is you see this little like triangle just there. See how it's got these wooden panels? You're going to aim for like the triangle, just this wooden panel just here. Okay. So that wooden panel kind of in the middle just there. And you're going to aim down towards this cushion. Right, so your crosshair is going to be on that cushion. In line with that, you're going to crouch, put it down, and just like so, away you go, and you're going to get this wall that goes across just there. Okay, and if I just end the game phase, I'll show you what that looks like. So there is a slight gap in hooker. You will have to just note that there is a small gap they could look through there, but that's fine. There's no real corner for them to play through there. And then on this other side, this is what it looks like, right? So these guys here, there is a small gap here, but if they ever try and swing, they actually can't see through it, okay? So that's what your setup is going to look like there as Viper for the wall. You're going to do that lineup I just showed you there. And then your orb is, you know, just at the start of the round. You can just come and throw your orb in there. Perfectly fine, right? And then your job is just going to be to defend hooker, right? In between your orb here, if you do feel them coming this way, and your Viper mollies, you know, you should have enough delay here, really, to keep them out. Now let's talk about what the rest are doing though. So, Brim, you are going to smoke off down here towards long very early on. So you're going to smoke off the top of long just there. And ideally, one of the SKYE or the Brim is going to tuck themselves into this corner. So it looks, you know, something like this. And this is going to be, you know, your kind of setup. And if they do come at you down here, you're just going to fight this as a duo, right? You're here together. You've got flashes. You're going to fight this. You're going to swing them. You're going to fight them. All of that kind of stuff. If they do try and challenge you in this smoke just here, you're just going to fight them pretty hard. You know, even if you see like a ton of people, you know, maybe even the Viper would, you know, put up the orb and just come and help you as well. That's a possibility. But yeah, you're going to fight this pretty hard. We're going to leave short. You can see that we don't really have anything towards short. What a common setup might be here is your RAZE is just going to jiggle peek this way, and your Sage is just going to see, like, are they coming that way? If they do come in towards short, what we want to do is then push up towards shower. Okay, we want to go as a group here and actually just own this space. If they come down here and plant, we'll let them plant. This is a setup you are going to want to do often when, you know, potentially you feel confident in your retake here on this A site, be it you've got a RAZE or be it you've got a SKYE or something that, you know, is going to help you here overall. But the real crux of this setup, of course, is we are going to do a trap play here on shower. Because if this RAZE, for instance, does see that, you know, people are in here, what we are then going to do is our Sage and RAZE are going to push up together just this way, and we're going to send a flash through the teleporter from our SKYE. So a flash is going to come through the teleporter out here, and the Brim and the SKYE are going to take the teleporter, come across here. You guys, the RAZE and the Sage, are going to push up. The wall is going to go up from the Viper. The Brim and the SKYE are going to come behind, and we're going to pinch on anyone in here and hopefully get, you know, a lot of free kills essentially as we trap people in shower with really no escape. And then, you know, we can go from there. Our Viper, you know, for the rest of the round can basically just tuck themselves in hooker and just, you know, try and stay alive as well as they can on this side of the map. You guys have then got 4 over towards A, so you can just kind of, you know, hold down A if you want, and then maybe slowly start to rotate back if, you know, this has all occurred and if things have gone quiet for a very long time. Okay, the next setup is a bit of a variation on that initial trap setup that we had in showers. We're going to be doing the same Viper setup here on B, and our SKYE is still going to be playing out towards long just there. But this time, actually, we're going to have the RAZE and the Sage push up towards A, and this is going to be a strong A hold, because we're going to start off by maybe putting up this wall just here, and then putting up the Sage wall here as well in towards shower, and come and taking this ult orb. Now, one thing you do need to note as Sage, if you are pushing up and doing this wall, is if you do just do it straight, you know, because of the wider door now, you know, that they're not going to be able to get through it, obviously, but they will be able to potentially see you, right? There will be a gap here if you just do a straight wall. So instead, you might want to, you know, just make sure that you are, you know, angling it somewhat so that, you know, there isn't these big gaps here that potentially could lead to a potential spam death. But once this wall is up, you know, you can often commonly come and just grab this ult orb as well, and then feel, you know, pretty safe and free that, yeah, they aren't going to come towards showers, and then you can really focus a lot of your attention in towards short. Now we got our Brim here, who may or may not, depending on, you know, the pressure that they see, come and do the same like Viper smoke, but just obviously with a Brim smoke here on the box and defend that. But as I said, if you haven't heard too much, then you could start your rotate over towards B as well. And if this wall is still up, then, you know, these two can come and just watch towards short whilst the wall is up and feel pretty confident in this kind of hold, and obviously use your information to determine where you should be rotating to and where the attackers are. Okay, setup number 4 is another trap setup here as well, this time for the other teleporter instead. So our Viper setup in this one is going to look like this. We're going to come tuck into this corner on A, and we're just going to aim for kind of the right-hand side, I guess, of that box, or kind of, you know, the side of the box closer to the sights just there, and send a Viper wall across just like so. This Viper wall obviously is going to go across here and just across there as well. And then for our Viper orb, we can come and tuck ourselves in towards this corner. And if we just aim, you see where we've got this long orange tile there. If we just aim for the, you know, kind of the little tile I don't even know, the beginning of this little yellow tile here, just aim at that little gap there and left click throw. We will end up with a little one-way there for showers as well. So that's what it looks like once the round starts. But this is going to be our Viper setup. So we've got obviously the wall coming across there, and then the wall coming across towards Hooker as well. And then our Viper orb is going to look like this, where, you know, any attackers coming around this corner are probably going to be a bit dismayed into, you know, peeking into this too much, because, you know, they will be seen. And, you know, if you want to, you can go up in heaven, you know, to make this a fully, like, real one way, but you don't actually have to. You can just kind of stick around here, and that will be fine. Now, for the rest of our agents here, obviously, again, our goal is to try and pinch on people coming in towards Hooker just here, and, you know, having a lot of aggression. I think going for kind of a fake smoke, in a way, down here for our Brim, right? So we're kind of threatening again that we might be in here, right? Like, this is something that we might have shown them before with this kind of smoke, but actually this time it's completely empty, it's completely free. Again, we're keeping them guessing, we're keeping them on their toes, but obviously as soon as we get a bit of an inkling that, yeah, people are past this wall, our RAZE and our SKYE, and you will want to be pretty cognizant of what's going on towards short, because you can obviously get spammed as you're running towards the teleporter here. So you will want your SKYE, you know, sending flashes or the dog out towards this area and just getting a good general vibe, maybe the boombot as well, of what's going on towards short to make sure that you aren't getting spammed and whatnot. But if you do get that presence in Hooker that you're looking for, taking the TP, sending in a flash, you know, these guys obviously swinging with it as well. And, you know, after the flash goes off, make sure that you don't flash your teammates and swing too early. You know, these guys should be waiting for that flash to come through, and then just pinching on these guys in here. And then once more, you know, once you hopefully get those kills, as you should at that point, you know, you can then play the round from there. Again, for both these trap setup plays, we want to be doing this when we feel pretty confident about our retake, at least to some degree. So we're probably doing this when we have some ults in pocket, you know, because again, obviously with this setup, if they did just fast come this way, you know, we don't really have an answer for that, right? We would probably just be playing a 5v5 retake. These guys want to stay in Hooker and just kind of close this down and try and do, you know, a 3-pronged retake if possible, if that was the case. And if that thing does kind of happen, these guys shouldn't be taking the TP because you already have Hooker control. These guys should be trying to come back this way, you know, to try and then get a retake coming in from as many different angles as we possibly can. So for both trap setups, basically do it with ults and, you know, if you feel confident in that retake. For setup number 5, what we're going to do here is a bit of a different Viper setup. We're going to have Viper and Sage over towards A on our weak side here, and these two again are going to come up into shower. We got the Viper wall coming across, and again you can come and do this Viper wall in Sage wall, sorry, in shower, and potentially take that ult orb. So for this Viper setup, again, we're just going to come and put the orb here in towards the box there. Just towards short, and then our Viper wall, we're going to come and stand in this corner here, just towards the A site, just this corner here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to send our Viper wall so that it kind of intersects towards shower just there. And what this Viper wall is going to do is, obviously, it's going to cover off shower, right? As we come down here, it's going to cover this off, and again, allow our Sage to potentially get a wall in there. If needed, we might not even do that as well. We might just kind of chill and see what's going on. Let them try and enter it if they do show early pressure in here if we want, but we can put the Sage wall up if we want as well. But also this part of the wall here just actually covers the entry to site in terms of where they can actually plant the spike. So, you know, it's a bit more of a defensive wall, a bit more of a passive setup here in towards A. You know, we might keep our Sage kind of, you know, towards the shower there, but then, you know, once that's up, we might start coming back to this kind of angle, you know, and then kind of, you know, threatening and just making sure that no one's coming this way as well in towards lamps. So we might come and retake towards lamps and get into this area. But once we've got that kind of setup, we should be in a pretty good spot, you know, to then, if we haven't heard anything on A early, to then just go kind of back to a normal setup where we've got a Sage wall in here, then we've got our Viper orb, and again, we can just defend it. And again, if we need to retreat, again, we've got this wall to just help with them coming this way. Over towards B, what we've got here is basically the same setup from the Brim and the SKYE. Again, the deep smoke, the flashes. We don't have to play this aggressively. We can kind of determine, you know, we might start out here being a bit aggressive, but if we see that it's, you know, 4, 5 people, then of course we can back off. We don't need to play it super aggro here. We aren't entrenched. We can definitely just escape if we want to. Raze in towards Hooker again should give us a bit of delay with the nade and whatnot. The satchels, the boombot, all going to be good delay here in Hooker as well. And you 3 guys here should be feeling pretty confident in your site hold overall. And again, this is just a way of mixing things up again. They aren't going to know where you are. They aren't going to know if this setup is super aggressive. Is there someone there? Is there no one there? Are they ready to retreat? Are they not? We're just going to be mixing things up a lot to keep our opponent constantly on their toes. And speaking of keeping people on their toes, let's just quickly look at a nice little strategy that we can do. Maybe as an eco round, I think this will be a good strategy. Although if you're feeling particularly bold, you could just do this in any round if you wanted to, which is this little mid pinch. So our idea here is as a full 5 group, we're going to send 3 people this way, 2 people that way, and we're going to try and pinch on anyone coming into this area, right? This is going to be particularly good strat if you feel like teams are defaulting a lot, if, you know, you're getting a lot of like one person there, one person here, one person there, one person there, one person there. Well, this time these 2 are absolutely screwed, and we're just going to try and absolutely destroy them here by doing this. So we're going to go for the common Viper Wall here. We're going to go for this Brim Smoke just in there to cut off any line of sight of anyone coming in that way. We want to be obviously be able to cross and come across here and really attack this as well as we can. And we're going to try and meet in the middle here. And well, then we're going to go for these guys here. This Viper Wall, by the way, again, you can use, it's going to be a deterrent to anyone coming this way early. If someone does, you know, run down towards B long, they're going to still be facing this wall. So they might think that things are, you know, still happening behind this wall, but really we're just pushing up this way. So as Sage here, we want to be right up against the barrier, and we want to be ready to just send in a wall like that. Obviously, it's going to wall off anyone on this side of short here, and we're just going to come and send it up here. We can send a RAZE nade in here if we want. We can send, we should be sending a SKYE dog in from kind of this, behind this box as well. So we're just going to follow the dog up and, you know, send in our util and just, you know, blitz on people in here and do a little 2-sided pronged pinch in there. Now, maybe there'll be no one here, right? That's a real possibility. Maybe you'll get 2 kills, and maybe the spike will be dropped. Like, there's a lot of different things that could happen from this position. You kind of just have to play it by ear and, you know, see what goes on. Obviously, you won't own too much space. You have to be very careful that, you know, someone hasn't pushed all the way down here, or someone hasn't pushed all the way down long. We do have the Viper Wall to hopefully kind of convince them not to do that, but you never know if they will do, so just be very careful that that could be the case. Now, in terms of ult usage here as well, obviously a res is a res, seekers are seekers. The RAZE ult as well, you're going to be using it as delay, you're going to be using it to get a kill. I mean, that push out tactic we just showed, you know, could be a good use of a RAZE ult as well, potentially. You know, if the dog does see someone, sure, pop it, go for a RAZE ult. The BRIM ult as well, you're just going to be using as delay, be it on a plant, be it on whatever, right? Like, it's a BRIM ult. You could use it for retakes if you want. I'm just going to show you a Viper ult setup here as well, though. So if you come here towards the B site and basically just line yourself up with this, it's kind of the last little broken tile on the kind of upper level of this here. Get out your ult, of course, and you just want to aim for kind of the edge of the wall there and send out this ult, and you will get an ult that looks like this. Now, what you probably want with this setup with a Viper ult that looks like this, obviously, as the attackers here, yeah, that's pretty scary. Don't want to really run into that. And, you know, same from, oh yeah, do I really want to run into that? Probably not, right? It's going to be a scary ult there for the attackers to run into. In terms of the rest of the team, we're probably going to want the SKYE here alongside the Viper just to help give that information, right? Are people actually coming in towards this side? This SKYE doesn't need to be too aggressive. You don't need to be playing up here or in Hooker or anything. You can just come back, be on the site itself, and kind of, you know, think about what you want to do, you know, go for flashes, just basically get the information for the Viper. Are they actually coming in? And then the rest of your setup on A can, you know, be pretty simple. You can just be doing Brim Smokes down here. You can, you know, be trying to put this wall up in shower as well. You know, when that wall's up, you know, you really have a very, very strong setup here, you know, to defend pretty much all areas of the map. Let's finish out the defensive side here by very quickly talking about retakes. Now, again, retakes come in all forms, shapes, and sizes, so I won't be getting into, like, specific detail. But the retakes on this map can reveal, I think, some truths about this map in terms of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 2 things. 1 is owning space, and 2 is flanks. Okay, because when it comes to owning space, and we saw in some of the setups where maybe we have 2 people in towards shower, and, you know, we're just trying to own this space, and if all 5 players come down short, so be it, right? So be it. Let them. Because as long as we own onto this space and our weak side here is A, let's say, and we've only got 2 people and they're both towards shower, if they come down here towards A, that's absolutely fine, because our retake has much more potential, right? If one of us is looking this way, one of us is looking that way, and if we can hold on to this space and maybe even they sage wall and give us even this space as well, you know, then our retake becomes a lot easier, right? If we just draw the space that the attackers would have then in pink, you'll see that if the attackers only have this space and we've got all the rest in yellow here, then of course any rotates that come in as well, you know, are going to come in very fast. We can knife out fully, run it here, and then our utility is all going to be coming into, like, we know where they're going to be. We know what corners we have to clear with our utility. Pretty much you're going to know the common areas they're going to be, so don't worry about it too much. Bind is not an easy map to retake on, and it's very difficult to retake on if you lose both lanes of a side, right? So each A site and B site has 2 lanes. If the attackers own both lanes, then your retake is going to be very difficult. But if you do own one lane, then it is possible. Now, the thing is, if you do get pushed back, particularly B site is very hard to retake, especially if you lose both hooker and long. And if this will happen some rounds, right? And this is kind of what is just naturally going to happen in some rounds. You know, you get pushed back by ults, whatever it is, you know, and then you get forced off the site and you end up in a retake scenario and it's not looking great, right? Well, obviously, one way you can kind of counteract that and try and regain some space is then through flanking. Now, flanking is going to depend on what your opponent's comp is. Obviously, if they've got a sentinel, you know, maybe don't flank as much. It's not going to be as useful. Obviously, I'm not talking about taking the teleporter in this instance, because that obviously gives away where you are. I'm talking about silent flanking, trying to come up behind them. And yeah, it's going to depend on your opponent's comp. It's going to depend on your opponent's playstyle as well, right? Do they leave people here all the time? Do they leave someone as a lurk to watch for these flanks all the time? Is that what they're doing? Or are they completely ignoring it, right? You might want to try and flank early on in a half to see, you know, how successful is it actually going to be in those situations. And particularly if you have lost both lanes, flanking can be, you know, sometimes even necessary, I think, particularly for this B site, because if, you know, you're trying to retake here on this B site and you're all trying to come out of CT and elbow, good luck, because it's going to be really tricky. So a flank like this, yes, risky, but sometimes a risk is needed for these retakes, particularly on this B site as well. So again, maybe try it early on, see what your opponent is doing, see if you can get a flavor for how they deal with that, right? If you can get away with it or not, maybe give it a go, and particularly so if you've lost both lanes. If you know, own hooker, for instance, let's say we had a 2-player hooker setup here, and they just blitzed down long and came this way and didn't really bother in hooker, and so, you know, we got one person watching this way, one person watching this way, you know, then obviously we don't want to be going for flanks, because we already own this space and we can kind of pinch in from 3 different sides on anyone onto the site and then deal with long. But now let's come to the attacking side and figure out how we would attack this map. So we're going to start off with some of our defaults here, and we will be defaulting a lot here on this map because we don't want to get flanked, right? As I just said, we don't have that kind of, you know, Cypher or Killjoy utility to help watch our flanks or anything like that. So we are going to be defaulting a lot, and this is our first little example of it here, and this is what we're going to go for. So this is our B long kind of default. When we are defaulting on this map, we're basically going to be looking to take kind of one of the 4 lanes early on, and then just keeping an eye out on the other 3. Are they getting aggressive in the other 3? You know, what information can we gain? Can we hear any utility being used by the opponents in the other 3? That's kind of our main goal here as the attackers. And let's start off with the Viper setup. Now, you might have seen that it's coming down this way with the orb in towards lamps just there. That's pretty much the Viper setup we're going to be doing most, if not all, rounds. I will give you one quick other setup that you can do, where if you come and stand kind of in this corner here by this barrel, and then aim your wall kind of towards this corner just here, what you can do with this kind of wall is basically sneak your way through. Right, you can just sneak your way through all the way here. This is like a good eco round wall potentially that you could use. You know, try and just sneak onto the A site essentially and get very deep onto the site. But for most rounds, if not all rounds, the walls that we're going to be placing are walls that just go across short. So it's going to look something like this. We're just going to come and line ourselves up with these boxes just here, send a wall in like that. For our Viper orb, we're going to come and stand by this barrel here. We're just going to stand in between these 2 just here, and we're going to be aiming at this plank, which kind of comes out a bit more than all the other planks just here. We're aiming for the bottom of it with kind of the bottom right of our UI just there, and then all we're going to do is just left click throw, just like so, and then we've got our Viper setup. Now this wall and this orb, right, when put up, obviously creates a nightmare for kind of defenders, where, you know, I mean, if you're defending this, like, what do you do, right? And this wall in particular, if we do start on this side of it, you know, we can potentially like lurk up here, right? And as the wall drops, maybe you come and clear this for your team, right? That's a potential with this wall. You could also, whilst it's still up, you know, try and like isolate a fight with maybe someone's on top of the little generator there, right? Maybe you even try and swing out to heaven, or just get information if someone is in heaven, right? If you wanted to. You don't have to by any means. And then I'll just show you kind of the same setup essentially that is perfectly fine to use as well. You're just going to stand by this barrel here. Yeah, just basically the same thing. Just aim the wall across just like so. Perfectly fine. And then for the orb from the same place, if you just take a look at this kind of thing here, and just aim towards like the bottom left hand corner of this kind of square pole or whatever it is there, and then just jumping throw. You don't even have to be like perfectly accurate with it. You can kind of be a bit off. It's fine. It all kind of lands in the same place and gives you the same Viper setup that again is going to be a menace for your opponents pretty much in every single round. Now for our Skye, Sage, and Raze here, what we're going to do is all three are actually going to start out towards long here, and they're going to come down here. But you can see we've got the Sage just taking a look back towards Hooker, right? So our Sage is basically here as kind of a support, right? If there's a big fight down here, right, our Sage can go and help in this fight if needed. Or if someone's like in this corner or whatever, maybe we can send a slow and a nade in there, right? Like the Sage is just here as extra support if needed. But the Sage's main goal is just to kind of be here and just check, is anyone actually pushing out of this angle, right? Is anyone actually there? And if the Sage is needed, they're gonna just, you know, use their utility or whatnot to kind of deal with this area as requested, right? We're gonna send in an early flash down here, right, which is just gonna tell us, is someone in this corner? Is someone pushed up there? If the answer is yes, if the answer is there was someone there, what we're then going to do is our Skye is going to come and tuck into this corner, and the Skye is going to just use a Trailblazer, right? So you're just going to use the dog and come and take this space, and the Raze is going to go with it essentially and scale up. Now, for our Sage, Skye, and Raze here, what they're going to be doing is they're just all going to start out towards long and come out here towards Fountain. Our Sage, basically, her job is just to look towards Hooker and see if anyone is pushing out this way. That's going to be your Sage's main task, to just basically keep an eye on this and, you know, alert the group if that's necessary. And obviously, if you get a big fight down here, if this is heavily contested, obviously the Sage is here to, you know, just kind of help out and, you know, help out in that fight. And if someone's stuck in this corner or down here, right, you send a slow in, whatever, right, just to help your Raze and Skye here in this fight. But the Sage's main task will just be to look this way. For our Skye and our Raze, we're going to send a flash down here early on, which obviously is going to blind anyone here or in towards Garden as well. If the flash catches no one, then obviously feel free to just kind of take this space at that point. If it does catch someone, what we're going to do, if our Viper is in this position here, we're going to do a Viper Molly lineup. We're going to show you in just a second, and then off that Viper Molly, so a Viper Molly will come in and land just here. Off that Viper Molly, when it's kind of landing, you're then going to send in the dog, and the point is obviously then no one can be here, or they have to be pushed back here as the dog is coming up, and then the Raze is going to follow the dog up, of course, and take this space. Okay, for this lineup, it is quite difficult actually, and is a bit inconsistent, but the most consistent way I found of doing it is you're going to be looking over here. For a general barometer, you're basically going to be looking in between the middle of these two, just at the clouds. That's going to be your general barometer. Now, what you need to look at is this plank here. You see how there's one bigger plank, wider plank here in the middle of this? That's what you're going to be looking at. And you're going to put the bottom right hand of the UI on the middle at the top of that beefier plank, okay? So you're looking at beefy plank, and the bottom right hand side of the UI just in the middle of it there, and you can see we're kind of in between the towers looking at the clouds, and that is going to come and land just here. Okay, so that means that of course no one can actually peek this angle on you. So when the dog comes up, that means that no one can really destroy it if you time it well, you know, and wait for it to land and then dog up. No one really can destroy it from that angle, which means you'll get to safely check this angle so the dog can come and clear that out for you, and then, you know, come and clear in here as well, because they should be pushed back to at least this position here, which means that the dog will get quite a bit of value and you will be able to take this space. Now, our Viper and Brim here, obviously our Viper has options with her wall if she wants to potentially come and, you know, maybe try and take a lurk up or see what's going on. And our Brim is just taking, you know, a look towards showers. And as I said, we are going to be defaulting a lot on this map, so we need to be considering how long we sit in those defaults for. And again, you might get a good sense for your opponents, right? Are they an aggressive team that are going to push out at a certain point? If that is the case, then maybe we want to hold those defaults a little longer. If they're a very passive team that never pushes out, then maybe we can be a bit quicker with our defaults, you know, and just check for the first 20 seconds. But probably between 20 seconds and the first minute, you want to be kind of mixing up your timings, getting a feel for your opponents as well about how they play, and, you know, changing up those default timings as well to just, you know, see what your opponents are doing and kind of keep them on their toes at any point. Okay, for our next default here, what we're going to be doing is a showers default. So we just got our Sage looking out towards long just here. We got our Brim just watching in towards hooker. And again, these guys are very passive, not really doing too much. We got the Viper set up towards short here. And again, the Viper just kind of taking a look, seeing what's going on. Might, you know, go and lurk up, kind of up to the Viper just there. And our SKYE and RAZE this time are going to come in and take towards shower. Now, what you can do here is you can, again, just send a flash in towards shower like so, you know, just to see if someone's in there, essentially. And then your RAZE is going to double blast back here from on top of this box just here by kind of the spawn barriers in towards shower early on. Now, if you thought my jet dashes were bad, my RAZE satchels are a lot worse. And so I'm not going to give you a good example of it here. But, you know, the general RAZE satchels, you're going to end up somewhere like here if you know what you're doing. The flash is going to come in just around here. You're going to come in. You're going to swing. By this point, your opponents probably haven't had, I mean, enough time to fully run in there. If you've double blast backed well into here, you know, they'll probably be about here if they are there, hopefully flashed as well. So you should be able to win that fight if they are trying to cross across. But then you're just going to come in. You know, you might throw a nade if you see someone. Try and take this advantage. You know, all that kind of normal stuff with RAZE and take this early control. Okay, now onto our hooker default, and on this side of the map, it looks, you know, kind of similar stuff. Brim just watching towards shower. Your Brim actually can come in back here as well if you want to as well. Your Viper, again, just watching towards short there. For these three here, what you're going to do is you might start off with actually a spam to this wall from like the Sage or something. Just spamming this wall just to discourage anyone from coming out too early as these two start to, you know, walk their way up here. Your Sage is going to come and tuck themselves in towards this corner just here. Again, just keeping an eye down towards long, seeing if anyone's fighting. Again, your Sage is in a position where you're watching towards long, but if someone does come through the TP or they do push out of hooker, again, it's kind of in position to help fight this out if it is deemed necessary. And for these two, rip the old boombot lineup. You'll probably have to come and do a boombot from more pushed up. Again, you might send a flash. You might send the dog in as well if like the boombot see someone. You might send a nade into this side as well. So hopefully with the boombot coming in and clearing kind of this side, and then a nade clearing that side, and with a flash in there as well, hopefully with all of that utility as your RAZE is going in, you know, there's enough there to actually secure this space. So that very simply for RAZE, you know, might just look something like this, where, you know, you've secured kind of this initial area, you send in the boombot there. Obviously, if it does see someone, you're probably just going to nade them across that side, and you might send in the dog and just try and get this kill. Obviously, if it doesn't see someone, then you might just nade across this side just here, and, you know, then just come into hooker and, you know, secure this space, and then you're in a pretty good spot. Okay, so now let's talk about our site execs. But when we're talking about our execs on bind, there's a lot of different things that can go on, and obviously a default, depending on what's happened in the default, you know, and all that kind of stuff, it can vary wildly in terms of what you decide to do, right? You might decide, oh, we've seen 4 people, you know, let's say we've seen like even 4 people down here. Well, of course, you're just going to run towards A, right? Like a lot of different things can happen, but assuming a somewhat normal round plays out, let's say we've started off with our long default, okay? What we want to do, and I talked about this for the defenders, about how owning one space as the defenders and owning kind of one of the 2 lanes is really good for the post plant in defenders. The same is true for the attackers, but flipped, right? Where if we own both lanes as the attackers here, that's really, really good, okay? It makes our post plant a ton easier, and I mean like really easy, especially on this B site. If we own both lanes, we are big chilling. So how would we go about doing such a thing? Well, again, depending on this, if this flash has seen someone, right, we might not use this Viper Molly. We might not use the dog in this instance. We might just walk up, right? That's a possibility here for what's going to go on, right? And so if we haven't used the dog in this instance, and I would say, if you don't use dog, use it to go and take the other lane, basically, right? If you don't feel like you need to use it for the first lane that you're taking, go and use it to take the other lane. So you might come back here as SKYE and just dog from this instance and just see if hookah's clear or not, right? And if it is or if it isn't, you know, you use, you know, you at this point, you still have a boombot, you still have a RAZE nade probably, so, you know, you can potentially scale up with that and kind of use those to your advantage as well, and, you know, potentially come and just take this space. And so what can happen here is we default towards long, but then depending on what utility we've got left, we might then, you know, basically do what our hookah default was with the RAZE boombot and the RAZE nade or a sky flash or the dog, right? And just come and take hookah as well and end up then in a position where we end up something like this, where our BRIM rotates over at this point, our Viper starts to rotate over as well, and now we're in a good position to do this BEXEC. Now, this isn't a necessity. You might find yourselves on save rounds or something like that where you decide we don't have enough utility, or maybe we had to use a ton of utility early on here, right? And so we don't have the utility to take hookah. It's okay if that is the case, right? But if you do have that extra utility, you know, should be thinking about using it to come and take a space like this, right? And end up in a kind of this situation if we can do. Now for this site exec, if our Viper has 2 mollies here, we're going to do some Viper lineups that come and land one on top of this box and one in towards elbow just there. Obviously, we're going to get the normal BRIM smokes down, just one towards elbow and one towards CT. That's going to be very normal. Our SKYE is just going to flash, be it from long, be it from in here, you know, be it from in hookah, just a flash out towards the site will be absolutely fine. Then your RAZE is going to blast back from on top of this box in hookah. If you're not in hookah and you're out towards long, just blast backing it in towards this kind of general area on the left hand side here is always going to be absolutely fine. Just again, kind of checking corners. Make sure if you can, if you're the RAZE, to check this kind of underneath spot, because this can be a bit of a tricky angle that defenders can like to play in. So get ready for that as well. But hopefully with all of this utility, you know, enough should be clear to where you're in an okay spot. And so just very quickly from a RAZE's perspective, right, we might end up in a situation here where we started towards long, the dog has come out, we followed it up, or we followed this flash up, right? We've come and taken this early space. You know, we can't really see too much going on. Maybe we even grab an ult up, right? But then we go for our second phase, which is to come back here. Again, we might have dog, we might not. And we're essentially just doing what we were before with the kind of defaulting towards hookah, where again, we might just send in a boombot just there. Okay, does our boombot see anything? Seems like no, so this side seems to be clear. The boombot didn't go off early there, so maybe I don't need to use my nade. Maybe it did start going off early, and so I do use my nade, right? And so we just send it in there. Maybe I use my nade if we still have it towards the back site as this exec is starting. You come and jump on this box here. Again, my blast packs, not ideal, but, you know, just a blast pack there, and then, you know, in you come, you know, onto the site, checking these angles, fight, win the round. But Viper here, and this is really going to be kind of the go sign for your exec. This is going to happen before everything else. But 2 Viper lineups that you might want to know for a BEXEC is if you just come and stand kind of in the middle of the fountain here, just out towards B, and you're going to use the line underneath your fuel bar, okay? And the 2 places we're going to aim for, if we've got 2 snake bites, if you got 1, don't worry about it. You could do 1, but you could do neither, to be honest. First, we're going to be aiming for this like solar panel here, the thing that it attaches to the wall. We're just going to put our underneath bar there, just underneath this. Okay, so the line underneath your fuel bar is just going to go there, and then basically we're just going to keep on the same angle, but we're just going to move across to where then the left hand side of the fuel bar, the line underneath it, we're keeping kind of the same across value, but just same horizontal value was the word I was looking for, and you're just going to come and put it there instead. So it's going to look like this, right? So we're going to put our first line underneath the fuel bar there, underneath where it says 100. We're just going to put that just there, and so it's going to look like that, and we're just going to send it, and then we're basically just going to move it across until we hit in line. The left hand side of it is in line with this little green thing here on this little panel, and we're just going to send that through as well. And so that's pretty much what it looked like. And where these 2 snake bites will land, this second one lands just there in that cubby there, and we'll clear all of that out for you. And the first one I'll just show you as well here. The first one is just going to land like this, and it's going to land on top of the little box here in the middle of the site, and that's going to vulnerable anyone coming and playing in here as well. Now, as the Sage and BRIM, as you're coming towards kind of long here and you're scaling up this way, What might happen, of course, is when those Viper Mollies land, you need to be ready for anyone to, move from kind of these spots. So you might just hold for a second. You might be smoked off. But as Sage here, what you want to come and do is just wall this off here, right? Particularly if you can get on the wall, that would be nice, right? So if you come and you feel like you have the sight coming and getting on this wall, because then you can come up here and you're in a really nice angle to just kind of kill people there, but also then just swing down towards elbow as well. It's a really nice little angle to play if you can come and get on this wall. This wall is really good, and from this position as well, you can send slows in there, you can send a slow in there. Like really good Sage slow is going to be really good for the post plant. You'll note that we haven't really used any Sage slows just yet, because for this post plant with this wall up and using slows in here or down towards spawn as well, it's just OP. Like, there's just no way they can win this, right? Because this is just such a good angle here for this post plant. And so overall, this is what your ideal BExec is going to look like. Now, again, you might have used utility at different points. You might not have 2 Viper Mollies, right? So you've used one for this early part, right? You used a Viper Molly here early, so you only have one left. So maybe you don't feel like this is necessary. Maybe your Viper just comes up here and shoots one, like kind of eyeballs it towards that. Right? Like, that's perfectly fine. You're gonna have different bits of utility. You're gonna, know when to use this utility at the right time. Maybe your Viper doesn't have any molly, so maybe you use a Brim molly instead, right? You might use a Brim molly in here, or you might just send one into this corner. Like, both, again, are absolutely fine. And then for this B post plant, we're just going to own it if our Sage is alive and has these slows, because it's just going to take them a ton too long. And especially if we own both lanes, we're going to be in a really good spot. And of course, the same can be true for our BExec here from Hooker, where, again, maybe we've used a nade, a flash, a boombot, and we've taken this space, and our RAZE just stays in towards Hooker here. But we still haven't used the dog, and we've still got these Viper Mollies, so maybe we, just come and do this, but our Sage is the one that scales up with it this time instead, right? And we use the dog from this instance. So you see how this can chop and change very quickly. And then also, we could do this, where the dog comes down with a snake bite here, and we've taken this hook and control, but really, we're coming back to A to sneak up with this wall, right? It's a fake this time. Like, you can kind of layer these things in different ways, depending on what util you've done. You can kind of show similar things a lot of the time, but one thing that's always true as well, if you do default towards B, is this Viper wall is always going to be there, this Viper setup for you, to potentially at any point come back to A and sneak up if you want to, once you feel like you've sent a lot of pressure in towards one side. Now, coming in for this EXEC, there's kind of 2 variations that we're going to do, or 2 mainline variations, at least, of this. One is the one where we come and take shower control, and really we have a choice here. If we do come in and we take showers and we take this ult orb and stuff like that, right, and we've taken this early space, we can do a couple things. We can leave someone here in shower if we want to, right? For instance, our Brim could maybe come and rotate all the way across here, and we could just leave, like, for instance, the Brim there in showers just to kind of wait, or and everyone else kind of comes up here if we want to, and then comes up with this Viper wall. On this A site, we are just going to be using this Viper wall, and we're going to be using this Viper setup to just walk down here. Right, that's what we're going to be doing a lot. As often as a big group, maybe, as we're defaulting towards B, our Viper can come and do it on her own if we want. We're going to be putting up this Viper setup a lot of the time when there's no one there. We're going to keep them guessing, how many people are behind this Viper setup? I don't know. That's what we want our opponents to be thinking at all times. And now, once we're kind of in this position here where, we've got the control of shower potentially, and we're walking down here, really, it's going to be, again, pretty simple. We're just going to, do the normal Brim smokes across like so. Particularly if we've got showers, we want to be doing these kind of smokes just here. We're going to be scaling in. We don't really need blast packs. You don't, like, this is why you can use these blast packs early on towards shower here, because you don't really need them, because you're going to be right on top of the site anyway with this Viper setup. So you don't actually kind of need these blast packs, to be honest, when you're coming in towards short. And you can just flash through the Viper setup here and kind of go through it as a team. As a Sage, you have a couple different walls that you could do that we'll go and take a look at right now. And so I'm going to show you 3 different Sage walls that you can do. It kind of depends on exactly what's going on. The first one is just a wall in here towards lamps. Now, this is not a wall I would recommend if you are in a situation where you don't have shower control, because if you don't have shower control and you wall that, planting is going to be pretty hard when you do this wall, because now you have even less space for this post plant, and planting the spike is going to be pretty difficult as well. So I would only do this wall when you know that you have like good showers control and you're coming in, but you don't want to deal with, or you don't feel that you have the util to deal with this kind lamps area. Obviously, one wall that's going to be very common, particularly on eco rounds and particularly on kind of maybe a pistol round, or what you can do as well is leave this as a bait for someone coming back in towards shower, is obviously this wall here that's going to help you get the spike down just like that. It's perfectly fine to use. And the third wall is going to be, well, you're not going to do it from here, you're going to do it from, you know, a normal spot, but let me destroy this wall very quick. What you're going to do then is just a wall across like that, right? That's a perfectly fine wall to do as well. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And again, you can come and just plant the spike. And again, if you have showers control with this wall, which again, you probably do want to, if you don't have showers control, probably just do the wall across like this. But if you do have showers control, again, this can be a pretty good wall because, again, someone out here can just kind of be holding, you know, this kind of angle. So if you are planting right, no one's going to come swinging out on you this way because hopefully your player in showers, you know, should be able to hold for you just here. And when we are doing this exec, it's actually perfectly fine to kind of leave shower. If we take in showers control, it's perfectly fine to just full leave it as well. And potentially come back on a flank later on in the round, later in the post flank kind of thing, and look for backstab kills. This is something that NRG Optic do a ton, where, you know, they will always kind of send someone back around here to fight in towards showers and get kind of free kills at the end of a post plant when the spike is there and everyone's looking this way. You know, this guy comes out of showers very late and then manages to get that kill. Now, playing as Viper here, obviously, as I say, we're going to be putting up the Viper setup like so. We're going to be walking up, walking up, walking up, and we're going to give the go signal eventually, right? What we can do is we can come and pick up our ult. So, you know, we're going in now, right? With smoke's coming down, flash in, all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, we could put down our orb and we could put it on the spike if we want to. We could also come and move it and even put it in towards lamps as well. If you don't want to take that space, that's perfectly fine, just to make this even, you know, more tricky to kind of come out of for the defenders just there. That's a possibility if you want to as well. And either one is going to be absolutely fine. So as we're coming in and we're scaling in onto this site here, what we might choose to do, obviously we flash through the wall, we're coming through there, all of that stuff. Again, we could use the dog if we haven't used the dog just yet either, and you know, just send the dog in towards these areas, whatever. That's perfectly fine as well. Our RAZE can send a boombot in towards lamps, right, just to help clear this out. So this might be our Viper's job to, you know, come and follow this boombot that's coming in just here and is going to clear a lot of that space out. And then again, we're just playing that post plant and hopefully getting the spike down. Now, in terms of doing like a fast rush, probably our best option here is to come down towards short. This probably will be our best like fast rush option, which again is a decent eco round to do, where, yeah, again, we might just come in here very, very fast. We might use blastbacks right at the very start to get our RAZE up there really nice and early. Flash off the rip, in we kind of come. We might even smoke like this, particularly if we're on an eco, we might smoke like this, you know, just a really like no long angles available for us, you know, sage wall in here, and just come and play very ratty. Maybe this is a pistol round you might want to do as well, as you're all just scaling in, coming in together. Again, you might flash through this, or you might be dogging into lamps and whatnot, get your RAZE set up in here. All perfectly fine ideas. In terms of ults and how we might use them, obviously, again, res is res, seekers are seekers. A RAZE ult is pretty much just a RAZE ult. You can just use it in terms of one of your execs, or, you know, trying to get a kill. For Viper's Pits, as we're coming in towards A, you've got ones that kind of go in towards lamps here and just make it kind of impossible to take. Something like this, right, is going to be quite nice, quite feisty. And if you get it just right, I think you can even get it to where it just goes over the spike just there. But one that you might want to do and might give you a bit of a different flavor to a round is a Viper's Pit out here towards shower, right? A Viper's Pit like this, if you come and taken shower control, that goes across like this, you might even sage wall across here and try and get the spike down here and just play a very kind of ratty postman where it's just basically protect the president. You, as the Viper, you'd just be sitting in here and everyone else is just trying to help you survive, essentially. You know, it's watching your flank. You're just in here keeping the pit up, essentially, because they're probably going to spam like crazy on you. But, you know, obviously just putting snake bites down on the spike just like that. This could be a potential as well for, you know, a bit of a cheeky round, bit of a kind of mix it up round where you come into showers and actually do an exec out of showers, because that's not going to be happening too often. Over towards B, really any kind of ult that, you know, just is going to make it, again, more difficult for people to kind of exit out here. into the site, anything like this, or anything, you know, towards elbow as well, is going to be perfectly fine. And anything like this really is going to be perfectly fine for that post plant, and just again making it very, very tricky for anyone to actually come out onto the site to come and get you. You know, this kind of ult in particular, where you could just hide back here and just make it impossible for anyone to come through this, is going to be pretty good. In terms of BRIM ults, a lot of pro teams like to actually use them as part of the exec rather than saving them for post plant. A good one is just to send it towards lamps, right? This is just going to be a very, very good ult here that kind of covers all of that. And yeah, away you go. You've got ults, you know, that no one can be in there, right? You can just come and take this space after the fact that it's gone off. You know, use it as part of an exec as well. That's perfectly fine. Same is true for this B site as well, right? That as you're coming in here towards the B site, you can just basically send an ult kind of towards the back and middle of the site. You know, just something, anything kind of in there is going to be absolutely fine. Make it very, very tricky for people, especially if like a Viper molly or some kind of molly is landing in here as well. Like, this is going to be a very good site. And again, because retaking can be pretty hard on this map, particularly if you own kind of both lanes, you know, just sending in your ult to make sure you can actually take the site is perhaps going to be more impactful than, you know, saving it for a post plant. In terms of post plants, again, they can come in all shapes and sizes, so we won't get into too much depth, but just playing an angle like this, again, you need to be very cognizant of flanks, of course, at any point. So just an angle like this, particularly if you're playing something like Viper, right, and you can come and do, you know, maybe the lineups at some point as well, if you do have Snakebite still available, you know, something like that, again, I mean, everyone probably knows that lineup that's playing Viper, you know, that just comes on lands just there. You know, stuff like that can be pretty useful here in general, and you need to be cognizant of a flank. Also, as I mentioned, going for kind of reflanks late on through shower is going to be pretty good, right? As this spike is going off and everyone's, you know, we're getting late in the post plant and everyone's looking towards short now as the spike's planted there, you know, just coming down here and being kind of late lurk and getting free kills down here is going to probably be pretty effective a lot of the time, because eventually, even if you don't have shower, eventually these defenders are going to turn around and come this way, right? Because if the spike is planted there and you've only come down short, eventually they will turn. And so if you can find a good timing to, you know, when they do turn, or if you can just win the gunfight against them, you know, that's going to be pretty impactful to, you know, just come and get this backstab lurk through shower. Another really nice angle, if you have put like the smokes down just there and there, is on top of this. You can see kind of in towards here, and as people are coming up this stairway here, as people are coming up here, you'll be able to get free kills. This is a really, really nice angle for this post plant in general. You know, as long as you kind of have a smoke to potentially escape, then it's going to be really, really good, because playing from on bench here is just a really, really strong angle in general. And obviously you can supplement that with a kind of crossfire here with someone on bench. So, you know, something like this, if someone else is holding in towards lamps for you, maybe on an off angle, something like that, right? I mean, you guys know all the common angles, right? You might come back in here. You might be, you know, up by this box. This is going to be pretty good for you, right? You might be in this corner. Like, you guys are going to be pretty cognizant of all the normal angles to play on this A post plan. And the same is true in towards B. We showed when the Sage could maybe get up on here, how strong that could potentially be. I mean, if you do have someone as well potentially coming on top of this box with the Sage wall there, this kind of crossfire between someone up there and someone here with a Sage wall here is kind of impossible to beat. Obviously, you do need this to be smoked off. You need to be aware, or someone who you really trust needs to be holding this. But again, obviously, you can play kind of inside the tube. Obviously, you've got this angle to play from. A good one as well, I think, is just kind of back here. This can be a tricky one, particularly if you're in low numbers and kind of need a kill. This can be one that can kind of be good potentially for one, maybe two, if you can get that as well. Playing back in hooker, obviously, again, you need to be aware of the TP. So you might have someone in here, but you need to be watching this at all times. So you might have someone here just watching that. If the TP goes off, obviously ready to get that kill. If not, you might have someone in the back of hooker, or again, this is a pretty nice angle on top of this, just to play down here, particularly if the spike is planted there. This is a pretty good angle. You can come out towards long. I mean, you know, there's a ton of good kind of angles here and crossfires that you can make, you know, with people depending on what's going on. The very last tip I will give you is to, again, be aware of pinches. Now, the reason that I set up some of the defaults the way I did is you might have noticed in this shower default, we had the Viper over towards this side. That's because if they take the TP, right, as our RAZE is coming in here, if this TP goes off, our SKYE and Viper need to be ready to react, right? We have to be ready to react down here and getting close to our RAZE so that then, yeah, sure, maybe they pinch our RAZE, but we're going to pinch the guy in the TP as well, right? We're going to pinch on this guy and get that kill, and then probably try and fight these guys as well if possible. That's what we want to be doing. We need to be on a rescue mission, and the same is true for Hooker as well, where, again, you know, we had the RAZE and the SKYE up here, but again, that's why this Sage is kind of here to, if that pinch comes in, our Sage is in position to kind of help out and come and be that extra player to support if they do need that help. But just make sure that your RAZE, SKYE, whoever it is that potentially could get pinched, is kind of ready and, you know, is ready to potentially deal with that if they need it. And, you know, don't go in too aggressively because a team will start to notice that and then potentially pinch on you and get a free kill. Okay, so that is the bind guide. Bit of a different one, to be honest, with bind, because I think it does play out a bit differently to maps. It's a lot about map control and what map control you have as to how you go about playing around and what utility you have left in a round to kind of decide on what to actually do there. So yeah, a bit of a different map this time, but I wish you well in your Premier games.